So this is a story about your great, 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 great grandma. That's a long time ago, right? The name of this grandma was Veronica. And Veronica's last name was Living Good. How'd you like that for a last name? Living Good. I wonder what the origin of that name is. But, you know, things were a little tough for Veronica. She met a young man, and his name was Abraham Peachy. And Abraham Peachy and Veronica lived in Somerset, Pennsylvania. But something very tragic happened, because Abraham, the new husband of about, maybe 6 months, died of yellow fever. And so Veronica is pregnant with the child, and now she's without a breadwinner, and she's in Somerset, and she decides to move in with her sister. I don't know too much about her sister's story, but anyway, that's what happens to Veronica. So when we were, Rita and I attended Goshen College, and in fact, this is kind of a side story, we have a connection to this story because one of our professors' name was Mary Royer, R-O-Y-E-R. Now, the Royers lived at the corner of Five Points Road and Chippewa. All right? You know that the building's there. And they were cousins to the Schrocks, who were where Dave and Melissa Schrock live today. All right? So these were we were relatives. Now, Mary Royer came out of that family there. So she would have known my mother, my dad, and so forth. But she was one of the first women, Mennonite women, to get a PhD. She went to Ohio State, and her area was children's literature and reading and literacy and that kind of thing. Well, she was our professor, and she was a single woman, and she lived with Olive Wise, who was the chairperson of the home economics department at Goshen, and Olive Wise was from Rita's home area in Wayland, Iowa. So I don't think they had a grand scheme, but this is how it worked out. Rita, and transferred from Heston College, came to Goshen, and they asked her to fill in for somebody to clean their house. So she's over there on a Saturday cleaning house. In the meantime, Mary Royer says, Don, I need somebody to come and take care of my rose garden. So I'm over there on a Saturday morning, and so they said, well, we have errands to run, we need to go. So they locked the door to the house, because I'm outside, right? I don't know what. And Rita's in the house, and I'd never seen her before. And I thought, boy, I'd sure like to get to know her. And so I'm thinking about, how am I going to do this? And so I have a garden hose, and I'm watering and so on. So I meander over to the window, and she's cleaning in the kitchen. And I said, could I have a drink of water? Now, this is a real test, because she could have put me down real fast and said, well, just drink it out of the hose, right? But she was so impressed. She went and got me a glass of water, and the rest is history. All right. So that's our connection to what you're going to see here in a little bit. Because when Rita was in the house, let's see here. There was a chest, a cedar chest that was in the house. Now, I don't know. I'll read this to you because it's you can't see it very well. But this story was written by Mary Royer's niece. And she did it as a children's literature project for her degree at Goshen. And so the words are written by
Christina.
Christina. All right. So, these are Christina's words now. She's telling this story. In my aunt's living room, that was Mary Royer, there stands a beautiful old chest made of Oregon white pine. On the inside of the lid are written the names of the owners who had previously owned this chest. And you see the name Christian and Veronica Smucker. I told you about who Veronica was a little bit ago. And it was owned by Samuel and Lydia Schrock. And it was owned by Jonathan and Nancy Schrock. And then it went to Isaiah and Tina Royer, and it ended up with Mary Royer. And this was in the foyer of Mary Royer's home. And so this was a special chest because it had the names, and I would guess that Christina has that chest today. She lives in Pennsylvania, but I'm not sure exactly where. I don't know if you can see it up there, but it says, Rita Graber Steiner dusted this chest while a student at Goshen College. But she didn't know, and I didn't even know any kind of a connection. I mean, because I think Mary did take me, and she said, now this chest belonged to your relatives. But I didn't pay much attention. All right, now, back to Veronica. Remember, Veronica is a widower, and she now has a very young child, and she's pretty much on her own, but she's living with her sister. Now, a little bit about Veronica Livingood's father, from what we know in history and from the story. Veronica's father was a rather stern man, and he required his young daughter to work in the fields with her brothers, so she didn't get a lot of housework and cooking kinds of experiences, and she learned well the hard work of a man. She knew how to plant and harvest and to care for the flocks, so she never had time to learn to cook and keep house. Now, I took a few notes here just to build a little bit of more background, then I'll get back to the story. Veronica Livingood Peachy was 1794 to 1884, so that gives you a little bit of the time context. Now, 1794, 30 years before that, is when in North Kill, Pennsylvania, close to Reading, Pennsylvania, there was a significant Amish settlement. And this is where the Hostetler Indian Massacre took place. But the Smookers, and there were many other Amish families in that area. It was the Hostetler family that ended up losing their lives. But at any rate, there was a connection to up in that area before they went to Somerset. So she married Abraham Peachy. She's pregnant. He dies of yellow fever. Now, I want to don't give the whole story away, and I want to get back to the story. Okay, so let me just move this up a little bit. So the story continues here, and Christina did the illustrations for this. This is Somerset, Pennsylvania. You know where Somerset is? That's where Bev lives, real close there, Bedford, in that area. Okay. So, as we said here, Veronica married happily, but her young husband died of yellow fever before their little son Abram was born. She was very sad, very sad. She mourned and mourned, and then she decided, I must not spend my life grieving. I must be brave for the sake of my little baby. So here is an illustration of hope and resilience that Veronica said she wasn't going to feel sorry for herself. So Veronica and her son went to live with her sister. And one morning, She and her sister rose before dawn to help the men get an early start to drive cattle to market in Philadelphia. Can you imagine driving cattle from Somerset, from Bedford to Philly? That's quite a journey. And during the lull in the morning's work, she lay down on a bench by a nice warm stove. She fell asleep. As she slept, she dreamed she saw a ruddy, bearded stranger come riding through the creek bed and up the hill. He was mounted on a bay horse, and the horse had a white spot right in the forehead, big white spot. I want to see if you can find the white spot in a little bit. She awoke and, falling asleep again, dreamed the same dream the second time. And believe it or not, the third time. Each time, the same stranger came riding a bay horse through the creek bed and up the hill. Dream come true. And then a stranger did come riding through the creek bed and up the hill. And when he came to the door, she recognized him as the man she had seen in her dream. He was welcomed into the house and invited for dinner. While he was eating, Veronica slipped out to the barn to see if the horse was the same as the one she had dreamed about. It was. It was. There was a white spot on the forehead, and the saddlebags were the same as in her dream. Who was this stranger? Where was he from? And what brought him on this journey? So, this ruddy blonde guy was Christian Smucker the third. We keep them separate. His wife had died, leaving him and his 10 motherless children in sorrow and need. He had traveled 100 miles from his home in Mifflin County, Pennsylvania, that's the Belleville area, Mifflin County, to Somerset, about 100 miles probably between the two places. So he had traveled from his home in Mifflin County, Pennsylvania, southwest to Somerset County, where there was a community of his own faith. And these were Amish folks, Amish people. And there he hoped to find a good wife and mother for his children. He had prayed that God would guide him and bless his journey. And when he came to the fork in the road, you know what he said to his horse? He says, "Which way shall I go? Shall I go to the right or shall I go to the left?" And he said, "In the name of God, go to the right or go to the left." And so he came to the farmhouse where Veronica was living. So this is the fork in the road story. Now, who was this Christian Smucker III? Well, in the mid-1700s, Christian III moved with his family, 10 children, and a pregnant wife from Berks County near Reading. Now that's the part of the story I was telling you about the North Kill area. So the Smucker family was up in that area along with the Hostetler family. Okay, so they had moved from there, North Kill, which would have been moving west past Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, into Mifflin County. Okay, so I already told you part of that story. Now, quick decisions. Now remember, they didn't know each other, they just kind of met. Christian told his new friends the purpose of his journey. He asked if he might return to visit Veronica. And the next time he came, so Christian leaves Somerset, goes back to Mifflin County, but he tells his friends, he says, I need a wife. So he goes back to Mifflin County, and now he asked if he might return. Guess what he's going to ask? Anybody want to guess? So the next time he came, he asked Veronica if she would be willing to be married, that he might take her along home, believe it or not, for the next Sunday when the church meeting would be at his house. It was the custom to announce to the congregation 3 weeks before a wedding the intention of two people to marry. But the preacher said that Christian and Veronica might be married at once so she could return with him for the church meeting. They were married, they got married. Wow. Huh? Not much of a courtship, huh? All right. What do you think that heart stands for? Is that a love story? I think it is. So you see Christian Smucker and Veronica Livingood Peachy. Okay, preparation for church meeting. Now, can you imagine Veronica and her little infant son? I assume, I don't have any real evidence, but I'm sure she would have taken her little infant son with her. But she goes back with Christian to Belleville or to Mifflin County, and now they're going, she meets all of a sudden 10 children. Now she's got 11, right? With her one. So Christian's 10 children joyfully welcomed their new mother. They loved her dearly. Only one person was not pleased to see her come. And that was the hired girl who had hoped to be the new wife and mother. Now it was time to prepare for the church meeting, and in those days, instead of going to church, the church house, families took turns having church in their homes. Poor Veronica. By Sunday, the house must be shiny and clean, and the dinner ready for all the people. And Veronica could do a man's work in the fields, but she was only learning to keep house. She went behind the barn, they said, and began to cry. And her new family found her out behind the barn crying. And they said, "We will help you." And they did. Okay, here's the illustration. Okay, now, into this happy home now, in addition to 10 children that already there, and Veronica's one child, there are 8 more children born into the family. Right? That's a house full, right? So there was Catherine, Joel, Jonathan. Pay attention to this one. Lydia. She is your great grandma. All right? Jacob, Joseph, Moses, and Peter. Okay. And Lydia had a son. I've also seen a notation or something that I thought her son was Abraham, named after his father, but he might have been David, I don't know. Okay, now, how are you related? This is the, this would be from Christina Neff, but this would be our version here. So, Christian Smucker III meets Fanny Livingood. Fanny lived, this couple, the second set in the family, are 8 children, and I mentioned and pointed out Lydia, right? So Lydia meets Samuel Schrock. Now, the Schrocks were also in Somerset area before they moved to Wayne County. So Samuel's father was Michael Schrock. And he, it's an error. They say that Michael Schrock is buried here in Wayne County. He's not. He's buried out in Somerset. But one I want to check is that they say that Lydia is buried over here at Paradise Church of the Brethren. But I haven't verified that. I don't know that for sure. Okay, so then I want to back up some more. Michael Schrock's father married Susanna Stutzman. Susanna Stutzman's mother was Magdalena was Magdalena Hochstetler, and her mother was Mrs. Lorenz. That's the family that lost their lives in the Indian attack. So there is a Schrock connection, if you look in the genealogy, that goes back to that time. And so Janice's, the Hartzlers, they trace their ancestry there too. Okay, so Lydia and Samuel family, they have a Jonathan. Now, Jonathan inherits the farm, and he's married to Nancy Hartzler. And so this would have been Grandma Steiner, her grandparents. So David Schrock and Leah Meyer, David was one of 5 in this family. And so, let's see, it was David Schrock, it was Enos Schrock, there was Mary Hooley, and I'm missing somebody. Noah Schrock. Okay, so that was their family. And then when they settled the estate over there where David and Melissa lived, I think each of them got 40 acres. I don't know, you'd have to go back and look at the deed for sure, but at any rate, and then David married Leah Meyer, and in their family, they had actually 4 children. There was Ruth Schrock, Mildred Schrock Mumaw, and David Schrock Jr., and there was a Paul Schrock, who died in infancy. Wait, was his name Paul? Does anybody know? Anyways, he had they gave him a name, but he died. He was not able. Mom always said that she felt so bad about that because if he had been born in today's time, it would have been a simple remedy of being able to get him nourishment. But anyway, but I didn't put his name down. So then here's the rest of us, and you can kind of continue the genealogy down that way. Okay, now, here's a relative that you probably never met, I don't know. But if you can put this is me, okay? And we have a son, Cedric, and he has a son, Isaiah. So this is Isaiah. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 generations. So could be 9 generations. I said 8 earlier, I think. Now here is a marriage photo of Dave and Leah. Quite a handsome couple, huh? And then you know that Leah's half-sister married Noah Schrock. So there was a kind of a double relationship there. And when I was a little kid growing up, I had a friend, his name was Paul Schrock, and he lived on the original Enos Schrock farm, which was south of Orville, up there by the racetrack. And when you pulled into the lane, you came past the barn, and the house was straight ahead. But guess what was over on the left side? Any of you older ones know what was on the left side?
A dead livestock place.
What?
A dead livestock.
Well,
Glue factory.
no, this was in the yard. This was in the
Oh,
yard.
in the yard.
You know what was in the yard?
Croquet.
Uh-huh. You remember that? These Schrocks, anything that was a ball, a softball, a baseball, a basketball, anything that was a ball, they were on top of it. Right? And they loved, I mean, if you can think about this, back in the 30s and the 40s, what did they do after church? They couldn't wait till the service was over because they would all go to Enos Schrock's place, play croquet, and they had a whole homemade lighting system on those courts, in the sand court. And so they were diehard athletes. They loved balls. And I was told that Noah particularly was a good athlete. Noah talks about how David was a good catcher. Okay, now this is mentioned. This would be David Schrock's parents. Nancy, they said that people would come to her for medical attention. In fact, back in those days, I mean, it kind of has a weird connotation now, witchcraft, but they said that she would be able to, do some hocus pocus or whatever to cure somebody. But the Jonathan Schrock family, this is a bit of a side story. When I was in high school, I worked at the Orville Milk Company. And then when I turned 21, I could start driving. I was still in college, but in the summer I would drive. And one night I was loading out. I had a straight bed truck with a refrigeration unit on it, and it would take probably 90 milk cans or something like that. So I had to load this thing out. And the guy that was helping me load it, his name was David Leunier. And we started talking. And he said, "You're a Steiner." "Yeah." Was your mother a Schrock?" "Yes." "Well, her grandparents raised me. I was an orphan kid from Chicago. And Isaiah Royer, remember Mary Royer's father, he started Orville Mennonite Church. He was a pastor. He married a lot of your relatives. But at any rate, Isaiah Royer had connections with the Mennonite Children's Home in Chicago. And so he would oftentimes figure out what families might be able to take a foster child or whatever. So this David Leunier and his sister spent a number of years on the Jonathan Schrock farm. Anybody recognize this? Okay, that was Dave and Melissa's barn. I think that they've since been torn down. But there was, I don't know when this barn was built, but it was before, this was after 1862. I know that. But so there was another barn there. Now listen to this. In 1862, they had a big, it was an Amish Mennonite conference, because back then, Oak Grove was a really small church and so forth. So they have this big conference where all the bishops, all the Amish bishops from Iowa, they came from Iowa, they came from Butler County down by Cincinnati, where there was a substantial Amish community that I never knew about until I started into some genealogy stuff. But at any rate, they all come here, and I just came across a source that said there were between 400 and 500 people on this farm, in this, attending conferences in this barn. This was the conference center. And then somebody kind of smarting off a little bit, and they said, well, what did they do for bathroom facilities? Where they got that many people coming to a conference and you're holding the meetings in the barn. I don't know what they did, how they handled that, but can you imagine what kind of pressure that might have been on Jonathan and Nancy Hartzler to sponsor this? Because you could imagine buggies pretty much all along the road, Chippewa there. And so this barn is featured in a number of historical accounts. So I just took the photo of that.
And where's that barn located currently?
Huh?
Where's that barn located?
They sold it. It was torn down. It doesn't exist.
Okay, where was that?
Well, it's down here, what, 3 miles?
Okay.
Chippewa. You know where Chippewa intersects with Five Points Road?
Okay.
Okay, it's the second farm over.
Okay.
It was an orchard. Samuel and Jonathan were orchard guys.
Okay.
And it was them, because I can't, I fuss with my trees and I can't get them to produce. All right. Here, I had some of Mom's stuff. This was a Schrock Bible that's in my possession. I've got some of those. All right. These are just some side notes. The Indian arrowheads that were found along the Little Chippewa Creek, this area here was, and up Robert, up there in your area. Did you ever find any arrowheads on your farm? Yeah. Okay. So anyway, these were a few that. So this area was a hunting ground at one time before the settlers came in. All right, quiz time. Who are these two?
Mildred and Ruth?
Who do you think they are?
Mildred and Ruth?
Yep, you got it. Oh, wow, that's very good. Yeah, Ruth and Mildred. All right, let's keep going here. Oh. There. Who are these guys? Left to right. Anybody?
Second one's
name
Grandpa.
them? All right. David Schrock, Grandpa Schrock, Dayton Steiner, my dad, Ralph Wumah,
Oh, my.
and your dad, David Schrock. Okay? Here are the 3 couples. Bring back memories? Okay, and here, this is David Jr., Mildred, Leah, David, and Ruth. And here's a photo of Leah Meyer Schrock. Well, that's all I have. So I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you have questions.
I have one question. You started the story with Veronica,
Veronica, yeah.
and then further down, Fanny. What, is there a
Fanny?
story? Yes. Is
Yeah.
there a story?
Yeah, she went by Fanny, and I should have made that clear. Veronica is
I
Fanny.
knew that, apparently by the name, that was the same person,
Yeah,
but I didn't
yeah,
know.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Had you heard that story before? No? No. Well, I have another slide. I didn't have it to raise here, but I told this story to my granddaughter, Erica. So she's on my lap, and we get through the story. She turns around and she looks at me. She said, "Grandpa, I'm sure glad that horse took the right fork in the road." I would be here. So you can say that too. You can be happy that horse took the right fork in the road, or you wouldn't be here either.
There's a picture of the horse with the star.
Oh,
Yeah, you
Yeah.
missed that.
yeah, we missed that, didn't I? I told you to look for the white star.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. I got going too fast. Let's see.
I don't think it was
Oh, there it is.
in.
Yeah,
There's the
it's-
horse. There's a picture of the horse. There's the horse.
There's a horse. There it is.
Where?
Right here. Okay, now I said, can you find the white star? Can you see the white star? Come up and point to the white star. You see it?
White spot?
Go up and look real close.
On its head.
Do you see a white star on his forehead? Point to it. Yeah, right there it is. See? Yeah. Hey, anybody else have any comments or questions?
What was it?
What do you remember about our Schrock get-togethers? Anybody?
We got to go, when Davis Junior got a TV, we could stay a little later and watch Super Circus.
Oh. Yeah, both the Schrocks and the Moomaws got TVs before we did, and it was, there usually wasn't any resistance going to either place because we knew that we'd get to watch TV. Robert.
Yeah, I was telling Harold there about on New Year's trucks get together that they have oyster stew.
Oh,
all the time.
yeah.
Some like it, some didn't.
And one time I was at Uncle Ralph and Aunt
We would
Mildred's,
have oysters
and
when we
if
were
you
little too.
remember, she would put out a
Have
big
oyster
spread
stew
right
when we were little.
when
Was
you
that
walked
from
in,
Grandma
the living
Steiner?
room, the kitchen was off to the right. Well, I must have been
Oh, you
about
did.
the 6th, 7th, 8th grade, something like that. And so somebody was kind of insistent that I sit at a particular place. It was done, you sit here, you know, whatever. So I sit down and we start, and I noticed that some people looking at me kind of, and I didn't catch on to anything, but anyway, we start eating and I go to get a glass of water and I take a sip of water and all the water runs down. It was a fake glass. So they were playing a trick on me. So none of the water would go in my mouth. It would all come out. Oh, they laughed. They thought that was really funny. I don't remember how I reacted, but I remember that. But they were a little joking around once in a while.
How old would you have been?
I think I was like 6th, 7th grade. I mean, I was,
Okay.
they were going to torment me, but
Sounds like
Dayton, sounds like something Dayton would have done.
well, one account that I read that I want to verify. See, it's over here.
Paradise.
Paradise. Where's Paradise? It's.
It's just right up
Yeah,
here.
it's
It's
over
that
there.
one that you just commented.
You ever go to Find a Grave? You can
Oh,
find-
did you? Is she
I'm
on
looking
there?
it up, yeah. It's called Paradise?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll look it up.
yeah. But that means if she's buried there, Michael is the reason. Joanna Schrock Swartman, who lives in Harrisonburg, so she would have been Wilmer Schrock's daughter. Right? So we talked. Actually, we even worked together some, but when I was before retirement. But she said that I think it was Dave and Melissa made a trip to Somerset and found the farm, the Michael Schrock farm, and they went back to the cemetery, and she said that's where Michael was buried. But I never asked her about Lydia, but I think what may have happened was that he died before she did. He was buried there, and then she came to Wayne County with one of the children. And when she died, they didn't take her back to Somerset, but I don't know that for sure.
Would it be Schmucker?
Huh?
Schmucker?
Yeah, Lydia, let's see, it'd be Lydia Smucker.
It's not showing up.
That's showing that. Hey, if you're interested in genealogy and you want to get that detailed level, you can work on that problem or that issue. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how families tended to, operate.
Hey, Don.
Okay, that's all I have, and I enjoyed presenting it, so I hope you liked it.
You get that picture back up.
What's that?
You get that picture back up.
With no.